Welcome, everybody. Tonight, you're going to have to suffer with me, I'm afraid. Um, Mike had a previous engagement, as he just said. He's got dinner with his aunt and his wife, and so it's up to me to provide the comic relief. So what I thought I would do, I think most of you know that I'm in the middle of trying to get my bronze award through FFI's Fly Tying Group. Excuse me. And that involves tying three copies of five different flies. And the flies that I have to tie are the Grey Goose, the Gold Ribbed Hares Ear, Woolly Bugger, a pheasant tail variant, which is a dry fly, and the orange partridge, which is a wet fly. So I have already tied up and put in the box ready to go the Woolly Bugger, the Grey Goose, and the Gold Ribbed Hares Ear. I've been working on the pheasant tail variant, but it's got a little bit ways to go. I had a terrible time trying to find badger hackle. So I finally got it, and I'll be tying those up probably this next week. It has been an interesting adventure in tying because, I mean, I've been tying for a long time, and until I started looking at the grade sheet and how these things are scored and talking to Al and to a Jack Gillis down in Texas, who is my evaluator. These aren't the kind of flies that you take out and go fishing with. These are the kind of flies that you mount in a shadow box someplace. So I've never really concentrated as hard on getting things absolutely perfect. And I'll show you what I mean by that here as I go through tonight. But let me switch over to the vise and highlight me. There we go. And let me just highlight. All right, which one is zoomed? There it is. Let me put the spotlight on myself. There we go. Can everybody see that okay?
Yep.
Okay. Yep. All right, let me show you some of the interesting things that I have found out about this. Okay, one of the first things I found out in talking to Jack and Al is the on the body. They are really concerned with how the body is tied on. It has to be equally wrapped. They are actually looking at getting the proper width of the feather when you tie it on. And the thing that Al emphasizes is the fact that these ribbings, this has to be equally spaced. And every fly has to have the same number of wraps. So in my case with this fly, and this is the Grey Goose, I've decided I'll use a 5 wraps. So getting those 5 wraps on the hook and tying the body on so that it always ends at exactly the same place, so that the case can be exactly the same on all the flies, has proved to be an interesting challenge. And one of the things I noticed, and I think you can probably see it right there, you can see the peacock curl coming through. The wing case has a tendency to want to split. I've been fighting that for quite some time. And this is one that's obviously not going to go out, but it's going to be put in my fly box. But this is a reject. So let me show you. I'm going to try and tie one that I could send right now, but let me show you what the materials are. And let me go over here and hopefully this camera's working. Yeah, there it is. Okay. These are the materials I'm going to be using for both flies tonight, the Gold Ribbed Hares Ear and the Grey Goose. The Grey Goose is going to require 3 materials is all it takes. The goose feather, right here. Peacock curl, right here. The ribbing is silver ribbing, right there. And the hook is a number 10 scud hook. So let me grab this stuff and bring it over to the bench. I've already got the tail or the feathers cut and set up and ready to go. So And I'm going to be using Semperfli Nano Silk tonight in black. And my thread came out. Of course it did. I like the Nano Silk because not only is it strong, but it's also very thin. So the first thing they say you got to do is pinch down the barb. So I'll just put that right in there and pinch it down.
And the switch screens?
Huh? Oh, thank you. Yeah. I'm all by myself tonight, and there we go. So let me just put this in the vise. Okay, that looks good. All right, and I'll just put a thread base on this, and they say the thread base should go all the way back to just beyond the bend in the hook. And the only problem I've had with this Nano Silk is how slippery it is. And Mike warned me about that when I first started using it. And tying around a camera isn't making this job any easier. The one thing I do like about the Nano Silk, and it has to do with how slippery it is, you'll notice that it does put down a really nice thread base because it slides up the hook. Okay, I'll bring this back up here. Now, the next thing that's got to go in is the silver wire. And what I use is this right here. Let me see if I can get that up. There you go. This is what they call wire lace wire. It's used by jewelers, and it's 32 gauge. What they say that you want to use in the recipe is fine silver wire. I tried fine silver wire, and it did not work at all. I mean, the silver wire just absolutely disappeared into the feather fibers. So I went with this 32 gauge, which is about the same, someplace between a small and a brassy. And it works pretty good. Now, they say you got to tie it on the bottom of the hook. And since I'm going to reverse wrap it, it needs to be on the bottom and on the far side. So I'm going to start right up here and wrap this in, tie it in. Take a few wraps, and now I'm just going to kind of pull it back. There we go. And then I'm going to hold it down below the bottom of the hook. Oh, came undone. I've had that happen more than a few times. That'll solve that problem. There we go. And wrap her all the way to the back on that far side. So it's actually on the bottom of the hook. And the evaluator said he will look to make sure that it is, in fact, on the bottom of the hook. I'm not sure how he's going to do that, to be honest with you. Unless he has to look right here at the very end. Okay, the next thing I want to tie in, and I'm going to put my thread right there. That's where I want the body to end, is right there. So I'm going to tie it in, and I tie it in from the tips, and I tie it in with the shiny side down. And again, according to the instructions, this has to be tied on the bottom of the hook. So I will start this. Couple of wraps, and then I'll hold it down below. There we go. I'll bring this back up to where I want that body to end right there. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to let this body end a little bit beyond there because I want to be able to use my, when I make the wing case, I want the wing case to have something to sit on. And that body material, the feather is going to give me a base to sit it on so it doesn't split. That was a recommendation that both Mike and Al made to me today for how to keep these things from splitting. Now, the one thing I have found is that two things actually about this fly or this material. Number one, the fibers will split. So you got to be really careful with it. And number two, the feather is slippery. And one of the problems I have is I keep losing it in my fingers. And the other problem I have is I can't see. So I got to put on my other glasses here so I can see what I'm doing. It's so dry here right now in Omaha.
That's no fooling.
That I can't. My hands are very slippery. Yeah, so I'll just wrap this all the way around up to where I left my thread and a little bit beyond. You can see how the texture of the hook or the feather changed. It's now kind of shiny, and that's because I'm down at the base. So let me tie this off. 2 wraps behind, 1 wrap in front, and I'll just cut that off. There we go. I'll wrap back, give myself a fairly good base. Okay. So there. Now what I need to do is look over this thing really close and make sure I don't have any spaces any place on it, and then that looks pretty good. Now, the silver wire has to be reverse wrapped, which is the reason I tied it on the bottom and on the back side. So I'm going to bring it over. And now here's the tricky part. 5 equally spaced wraps. There's 2, 3, 4, 5. And you see, I'm a little short here. I want this wrap to finish just a little bit further. So I'm going to start over again and make them a little bit further, space them a little bit further apart. Now, if this was a fly I was going to use to fish, I'd say the hell with it and just tie it and let the next one come in. So, but this one is going to be for an award, so. 3, 4, there we go. 5. That looks pretty good. I'm going to bring it forward a couple of more times. I'm going to unwrap this. I'm going to come or secure that down. Okay, 3 wraps on that side, 3 wraps on this side should do it. And this stuff helicopters off really nice. Well, at least it did. There we go. Now, when I'm tying a bunch of these, this is where I stop. I put a 1/2 hitch in it, and I put this aside. Come over here, look at it. Yeah, those wraps are looking pretty good, and they are equally spaced on all sides of the hook. So I think that body is ready to go. Now, the next thing I need to do is put the wing case in. And this is where the problems start to come, for me anyway. Now, the wing case, they say the wing case should be 1/8 to 3/8 of an inch in width. And then in other places, they say it should be 4 to 6 fibers in width. So I'm using a wing case that's right about like that. You can see that's about 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 4.5 or 5 fibers wide. And it's about 1/8 of an inch, maybe 3/16. So, and again, you want the shiny side facing down because when you fold it over, you want the shiny side to be on the top of the hook. All right, so let's just go ahead and tie this in. Come on. And I like to tie it in on the side and then let, God bless it, and then let the thread torque bring it up on top. There we go. Okay, so here's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I want that body to be right there. So I'm going to tie it back over that one last silver wrap right there. There we go. And now I'm going to get rid of this excess out here on the front. Come on. There we go. I'm going to tie that down. And bring it, okay. The last thing I need to put on this fly then is the peacock curl. Now, when I first started tying it, I tried to tie with, put this back here. Yeah, I tried to tie with a strung peacock. And what I found was that the strung peacock is really thin and it's doesn't have very much bulk. So I went ahead and decided to go with a peacock eye. And what I want is I want this, if you look at it, there's two sides to it. And one side has the rachis, you can see it very plainly, and the other side you can't. You want that rachis to lead the fly. Okay, so there's my side with the rachis on it. I'm going to tie this in right about here. Oops, wrong end. I got to tie it the tips in from the tip end, not the butt end. Okay. Yeah. So I'll tie this in right here like so. And tie it all the way back to where I tied in that feather. Bring it forward. There. Now, I found that I have to leave at least, see how much bare hook I've got, or bare stem I've got there on the front of the hook, right between a little less, just an eye or a little less than an eye of bare hook. That's so I can get a fairly decent head on it. Okay, so now I can go ahead and I'll start wrapping this forward. Four or five wraps I found is about what works. Okay, well, one more right about there. There we go. Tie that off. Two. And one front. And snip it off. And now here's where the interesting part of the puzzle comes together. See if I can bring this forward without splitting the wing case. Forward and tie it back. That looks good. Tie it up like so. Okay. Now it's just a question of putting the head on it. And that wing case got twisted a little bit. Let me see if I can bend it back around. There we go. Okay. And if I can find my half hitch tool, we'll, if not, oh, there it is. Put a half hitch on it. Then I'll clean it up. Okay, that's the Grey Goose. And I got some garbage here. I'm going to show you a little tool that I found that really works great. It's called a thread zap. What this is just a little piece of metal that gets hot. You just get it warm, and you can get rid of these little tiny fuzzy things out here. Just burns them off. You got to be careful that you don't get the thread, though. There we go. I got a piece of thread right there I'll get rid of. And I got one little fiber right there. There. So there it is. There's the Grey Goose. Now, if I were to evaluate this, I'd say the body's okay. I would say that the silver wrappings are okay, except I've only got 4 that I can see because the 5th one is hiding underneath the wing case. That'd be lose a point. The wing case, you can see here it's crooked. I didn't pay much attention to it, so I would probably take a point off for that. And there's several other things that I would probably deduct points for. So, but that one would probably pass, I think. I don't know. But there's a Grey Goose. Any questions on that?
My wife let me borrow her thread zapper. I don't know when we're gonna
What'd you
get
say,
it.
Bill? I can't hear you.
Oh, my wife let me borrow her thread zap. She's got a bead Smith
Uh-huh.
thread zap 2 is what she let me borrow.
Okay.
So I'm gonna try it and see what it does. I'm gonna try it on my little Frankenfly that I made because remember I had lots of extra flyaway.
Yeah, it works great. I've been using it for quite a bit now, and I really do like it. It's you got to be careful with it though. I've burned the thread head off a few times, and this one I don't like particularly because look at how the size of that head. I think that head is too big. I think I would make the head a little bit smaller.
No, I think I would
For a
agree with
fish and fly, it's fine, but for a fly to enter into the for the award, I think I probably wouldn't enter this one. So
Are you allowed to use soft text or something like that for the wing case?
no, you got to follow the pattern exactly.
So you
You
can't
gotta
use like a
use
soft
goose fibers.
wing case.
Yeah, you cannot substitute unless you get permission from your evaluator to do the substitutions, and they're very hard over. Part of the evaluation is that you use the right materials in the right way.
Okay, well, I'm not now what's much materials. It was a soft text is like a coating for the wing case so it doesn't split.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't ask. That might be something I'll ask Jack. Because that would help that problem.
Probably not allowed to use chemicals.
Probably not.
I mean,
You know,
hairspray would do the same thing.
I've got to take a look at read the rule book a little bit more carefully before I make a decision like that. But okay, that's one for tonight. The other one I'm going to tie is this is actually the first fly they talk about in the competition or in the evaluation. The second fly is the pheasant tail variant, and the third fly is the woolly bugger, and then this one is fly number 4. I don't know why they put it so far down the list, but the Gold Ribbed Hares Ear, and the materials for that are right there. Hares ear dubbing, and I just made this the other day out of some hares masks. I just cut it off and blended it. Hare's mask because the tail has got to be out of this part of the skin right here. Wire, and they don't specify a lead wire size. They do specify a lead substitute wire, so I can't use lead. and
Oh.
I'm using 15 thousandths. They say 10 to 15 wraps of lead on the fly. And turkey tail for the wing case. And then the hook is another size 10, but this time it's a 1X long nymph hook. And I had a devil of a time trying to find these hooks. I finally went to the wholesale fly warehouse. Okay, back to the vise. Mash the barb down. And one of the problems I said earlier was trying to find the right materials for these flies. Even something as simple as a nymph hook in the right size and the right length. I mean, I have found that it seems like every single company has their own way of sizing hooks. And it took me quite a while to finally get to the point where I could find a hook that I thought would work. And we were talking about it yesterday on the East Meets West with Al Beatty and Eric Austin. And even the professional tires are having issues trying to find materials. So apparently it's not just us. So, okay, again, I'm going to use black thread, and that's what they call for is black. In fact, all the flies take black with one exception, and that's the pheasant tail variant. They use a brown thread for that one. So I'm not sure why, but they do. Okay, again, another thread base on here. Oops, forgot. Got to put the lead weight on first. Or in this case, the lead substitute. Let me just bring off a little bit of this. Oh, and instead of using silver ribbing, we used gold ribbing. And what I'm going to use is this stuff right here, which is actually sulky. It's kind of like a tinsel. Okay. And 10 or 15. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 is what I've been using. And I hear my wife coming downstairs, so I'm not sure what that's all about. Maybe nothing. Our neighbor across the street is 97 years old. And the other day we found her out on the sidewalk in her stocking feet, waiting on her son to come and pick her up. And her son lives out west, out near Wanahoo. And we called him and asked him if he was coming to pick her up, and he said no. So, and she said we took her in the house and everything, and she said she couldn't get her stove to work, and that her husband was going to be home pretty quick, and she needed to make dinner for him. Well, her husband, Roland, has been dead for 15 years, so we're afraid that we may have to do something with her. The family doesn't know quite how to handle it, and that's kind of sad. Okay. I'm going to wrap this down to about the barb, or where the barb should be, because that's where I want to tie in the tail. You notice that I kind of built up my thread here a little bit to give it kind of a taper. I didn't give it a really good taper, but that'll have to do. Okay, the first thing I'm going to put on is the tail. And they say cut off a piece of hare's mask and mount it. And it's the pictures I've seen, it's kind of dark. So I've been trying to find, that looks like it might be a good piece. I've been trying to find some of the the fibers on this hare's mask that are kind of dark, but this stuff is not easy to tie in, I'll tell you. So here's what I've got. Okay, there it is. And that's way too much, so I'm going to clean this out. And there's about what I want right there. I think that looks pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and tie that in. Now, before I go any farther, yeah, that looks pretty close. That looks good. Maybe a little bit longer on that tail. There we go. And I want to tie it in right on the top of the hook. Okay. And now, whereas on the Grey Goose, we used feathers for the body. In this one, the recipe calls for, here's your dubbing, light. So I made mine out of the fur off of this hare's mask right here, and an old coffee maker. And I use a trick that Mike showed me on this. I'll show you in just a second as soon as I get it out. There we go. Okay, what Mike does is he cuts off the corner of the package. See that? And that way we can get it out without having to go through the whole pack. And I'm going to put some wax on this thing. Now, Al does. Oops. Hit the camera. There we go. Al recommends that when you take the cap of your dubbing wax off, you put it face up or open end toward you on your desk. Excuse me. And then when you're done with it, you stick it right back in. Apparently, he's had more than one occasion where he's had his wax come off and fall in the trash can. Okay. Now I'm just going to kind of touch this on here, touch dubbing it. There we go. And it's not working, so I'm gonna turn it the other way. What I've found is, and everybody says I'm crazy. What I've found is sometimes the dubbing wants to go on counterclockwise. Sometimes it wants to go on clockwise. And I am not really sure why, but okay, that's coming undone. Let me wrap it up. Yeah, I'm not too crazy about that. See how that's coming undone? That's one of the issues with dubbing that I've always had. There we go. This just doesn't.
Using the wax, dye, whatever, or the stick kind of glue.
Yeah. I don't like the, this is the first time I've tried it with the wax. And I'll be honest with you, I'm not too crazy about this idea. It's so I'm going to do it without the wax. I put the light stuff. There it is. So let me get a little more dubbing out here. There we
Tell you the truth, John, wax is not the answer for the kind of dubbing that you're doing.
I'm thinking you're right, Al.
It's the wax is made for touch dubbing, and that is far from touch dubbing.
Yeah. I thought I'd try it tonight just for the heck of it.
Well, it was an interesting experiment.
Yep.
I could only
Okay.
stay a minute, but I wanted to pop in and just say hi anyway.
How's Gretchen?
Uh, she's good right now because they're keeping her real happy.
Okay. Well, you give her my best and tell her to get well soon.
Will do.
Oh, you know what I did? And nobody caught me on it. I forgot to put in the tinsel, the ribbing. Let me just go back up here and get rid of all of this stuff. There we go. Okay. They put in the tinsel, the ribbing. There we go. And again, the ribbing will be counter wrapped, so I'm going to put it on the bottom far side. Not too crazy about that tail, but I'm not going to go back and fix it right now. Looks a little long and a little thin to me. Okay, let me grab this and get it out of the way. All right, let me try to dub this now. We'll dub her without wax. The secret I've found to dubbing is to use a little bit at a time. So I don't know if you can see how much I'm using there. I'm just using a little tiny bit. That looks better. Much better. Yeah. That's what I'm looking for. You see the difference in that body now. I was seeing thread come through it before, and now I'm not. Oop. And just a little bit more, I'm thinking. Oop. That piece came undone.
What you doing?
Bringing you food.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, just a little bit more here.
Beef
Oop, that's way too much.
and ketchup, fries.
Bill, could you mute yourself, please?
Oh, I'm sorry, gentlemen.
There we go. Okay. Now for the counter wrap. And again, I'm shooting for 5 equally spaced wraps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think that'll do it. Go. Okay. And again, if I was tying this a bunch of them at a time, this is where I'd stop and put in the half hitch and take a look at it. So I can see I got a piece of pencil hanging, sticking up there. So let me see if I can get rid of it.
Hey, John, did you just pull, once you wrapped it 5 times, I couldn't tell, did you just pull that front part, that gold foil or whatever it is forward and then wrap the string around it? Is that what you were doing?
No, what I do is I wrap it a few more times up front, and then I just wrap it up good and tight with the thread. Now, the thing you got to remember is that you're counter wrapping the tinsel, so it's wrapping toward you. When you get ready to wrap and tie it down with the thread, you're wrapping away from you. So your thread and your tinsel are going in opposite directions, and it's a little bit tricky to do sometimes. What I've seen done, and I know Gretchen does this, is she will bring her tying thread around behind the tinsel, and then that reverses the thread. So now she can wrap the thread exactly the same way as the tinsel. And then when she's done, she brings it back around and goes the other way. So, and I've tried that. I just haven't been able to master that yet. So, okay. So that looking good. Okay, the next thing I have to do now is I have to put in the feather, the wing case. And again, like I said, we're going to use turkey for that. This guy right here. And again, as with the Grey Goose, we want the shiny side to be facing the world. And again, about 4 to 5 strands. That's a little too big. Take off one. There we go.
I have to leave. The fire alarm just started.
Oh, God. Paul, we'll talk to you later. You have a good weekend.
Go save yourself.
Don't forget the marshmallows.
Okay. I'll turn this upside down. There's the dull side, I think. That looks dull. And again, I'll tie it on my side of the hook and let the thread torque take it to the top of the hook. Oh, that looks pretty good. I come here, a few wraps. There we go. And bring it back. Now the thorax is dubbed again with hare's ear mask or hare's mask dubbing. Except now it's a darker color because you want the thorax to be darker. Now, a lot of people tie this with pheasant tail as the tail and not hare's mask. And to be honest with you, it's a lot easier to tie it with a pheasant tail than it is with hare's mask, but okay. No, that's actually a little too much. Let me get that out of there. Okay. little bit more on there. You want a pretty good thorax. You want it to be larger than the rest of the body. Okay, let's bring her forward and tie it down. Let's check. Yeah, see, I did the same thing I did on the Grey Goose. I got it a little bit off center. So we'll bring it back over to center. Okay. And we'll tie her down. Zip off the waist. Got an awful lot of hack or fiber left out there. I'm going to have to clean up. And I'm not too crazy about this dubbing. I might have to go with something else. Okay. And there is the Gold Ribbed Hares Ear. Clean it up here a little bit. Let me get my little tool out. Okay.
That will catch a fish.
And there you go. There's the Gold Ribbed Hares Ear. Now, to me, that looks a little too fuzzy. But I could be wrong. Just a second here. There we go. Al, are you still on? No, he had to leave. Okay. I think it's too fuzzy myself. I could be wrong. But I do like the segmentation is good. A little bit too much dubbing, I think. But the wing case looks good. It didn't split. It may be a little too narrow. The head size is about where I want it. So this one isn't too bad. I'm going to have to work on the dubbing a little bit, though. Let me see if I can find the ones I did already that I'm going to try and submit.
John, have you considered using a dubbing loop on those? Because you have the dubbing from that hare's mask is fairly long, and it's hard to get that to really grab itself when you're just twisting it. If you used a loop to trap it, you might have better luck.
Yeah. You know, I actually have thought about that, Roger. And okay, where'd I put it? I knew I was going to do that. And I haven't come up with a decision yet as to whether or not. I've got to talk to Jack because they do not mention using a dubbing loop. Oh, here it is. Let me show you one of them that one of the hare's ear that I've done that I kind of like, and I think I'm going to submit. Get my other glasses on here. This one will go in my fishing box. But here's the one that I've got set aside so far to go to. And you can see there's not much. The dubbing looks a little better there. The ribbing is good. But you notice that the case did not split like I've had on some of them. So I think, you know, this one looks a little bit better to me. The tail is a little bit too thick for my taste. But And
I was going to ask about that, John. Is the tail on this is a lot bushier than the other one, but which is the preferred? Do they give you a kind of a model to look at?
No measurements at all. Just a second here. Let me see if I can. Let me see if I can open the book. Looking for. There it is.
I would guess either one of these would catch fish.
Yeah, let me.
I like the
here it
fuzzy
is.
one.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let me see if I can share this. Where's the Zoom? Here it is. Okay. Find my share. Figure out how to do that. Okay. Where's, oh, there it is. Share screen. There it is. Okay, can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Let me see here. Boy, I'm not seeing it at all. So you do see that page with the hare's ear on it?
Yep. Well, it's on the right side. Yep.
It's on the right side, yeah. But you can see what what theirs looks like. And you see that tail is quite a bit thinner than the one I've got.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of in between the two.
Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I've still got a lot more work to do. I mean, I put 3 of them in the box just so I've got them so I can say, yeah, I'm sort of done. But I've got a lot more work to do before I finally get to the point where I want to submit these. So,
That's good.
so, okay. I got to figure out now how to stop share. There it is. Okay. There it is. Stop share. Okay. Let me take this. Let me take my spotlight off. There we go. Okay. Any questions on any of that?
Good.
It's an interesting challenge. I'm really having a lot of fun. I'm learning a lot about, I guess the best term for it is precision fly tying. It's just it's different than, normally, and in the past what I've done is I'll sit down at the device, I'll tie 10 flies, put them in my box, and I'm done. Here I tie, well, I think I've tied so far like 25 or 30 Grey Goose feather flies, and I'm sort of satisfied with 3, but I want to tie some more and do that. So, it's really kind of strange, but we'll see. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording. If I can find it. There it is.